Hey guys, welcome to another session of RBTL. Super big patch update news here. We got a new hero, Roaming Warrior Leo. On the you could check out the video if you guys want to look at the stove website or even follow them on YouTube, of course. Check it out. I don't have that much thoughts on him right now. A Ranger, Dark, Elemental. He seems to just be debuff heavy. All his skills really require some Mola investments, Mola love, to get his debuff chance up. Up to a 50% chance to decrease the attack for 2 turns on the S1 there. S2, he has a 100% chance to increase the skill cooldown of an enemy, so that's pretty good. I would say probably more usable than Kisei because the cooldown rotation is quicker. I'm talking about Ice Kisei. And then for S3 has a 90% chance to inflict a new debuff called Bomb, which after their turn, or if you debuff them with the Bomb, they get stunned. I think for 1 turn at the end there. Up to a 4-turn cooldown if you Molo this. And just briefly, just my thoughts. I think the attack down in his kit is probably the weakest part. So I probably wouldn't even bother moloing it. Unless you really want to use him in like multiple scenarios. Of course, the attack down is really good. But only a 50% chance. I'm not sure if you want to +4 that right away. But I think using him for his S2 and S3 might be pretty decent. So I say the S2 is probably the highest priority. Get it 100% effect chance to inflict the debuff, to increase the skill cooldown. And then the S3, if you are going to invest in it, I guess you may as well make it as high as possible, but maybe start with an 80% chance and just see how it's used. I think if it's used on someone like Destina, for example, and she gets her turn and the bomb goes off, she'll get stunned, so she can't really dispel it. Or cleanse it from your team. But if it's like on someone with really high effect resistance, any cleanser should be able to remove it. So again, I don't know how. I think he might be fun to use. I don't know how game changing he is. Even in arena, I can't really think of him being super crazy. Of course, immunity up. You can't increase the skill cooldown if you use the S2 there. Just a ton of people run immunity for first turn. And if they have ML Cecilia with immunity on the full team, it's hard to strip that immunity on the first go there, especially with ML Ball's nerfs. But of course, there's Bazaar and stuff like that too. So I don't know, it depends. But I just don't think that it's gonna be really like game changing in the PvP realm, but maybe PvE. Yufine drop rate up. I'm gonna talk about this on her own page there, and then we got our 3-week. Event. So Rengar's Chaotic Full Moon Festival. You have to complete all sections of every given week in order to proceed to the next one. So obviously every week try to focus and grind and finish up that section. That way you can move on to the next one on the following week. Yuna gets an increased benefit there, along with Corinne, Zerato, and Tenebria. Which is kind of weird. I'm actually surprised. Tenebria? Maybe she's the bad guy on this, but it's kind of weird that she gets the buff too. So a couple of things. I think Yuna's gonna be pretty good going forward, especially with the exclusive equipment. But I'm gonna talk about that in a bit. They kind of changed the UI, which we'll talk about as well. On entering the battle, hopefully it's a lot more friendly, but from my reading of it, looks like it's a lot of muscle memory changing, so we'll just have to kind of adapt to new muscle memory inputs. Special stages, you can farm Kikirat now again, so if you were not like an old player, like I would say, actually I forgot when Kikirat came out, pretty early in the game. We had an event just to farm Kikirat. So for those of us who have actually like farmed him max, like SSS, I guess just like clear the stage. But yeah, it's just like the event that when he appeared the first time, The higher the difficulty, the higher the drop rate. So you can't, I don't think you can, yeah, you can't use them as enhancement promotions. I don't know if you can, yeah, you can't provide silver transmit stone. So if you have triple S, it's not really important. Oh, Delphinius is November last year. Ah, I see. Hey, Shuyu-kun, welcome. Yeah, so November, yeah, so that's really early then, really early. It's pretty much as soon as the game released. For at least for global. And then yeah, continue on. Let's see if there's anything I needed to touch upon. Oh yes, there's limited daily stages. You do get an increased amount of event currency, as you can see here, and you can only do it 5 times per day. So it's kind of like the crack in the world thing. But as you can see on the image preview, the energy is not going to be as crazy as the crack of the world. 5 times a day. So make sure you do this because you have an increased amount of the event currency here. So make sure you do it 5 times per day. Resets on your daily server time. So just keep that in mind. I think that's quite important. We'll continue down here. Exclusive equipment from Yuna. You can get 3 for I think for, yeah, you can get 3 I think once per week. I think that's what it says. Yeah, so the max main stat, so it will always be a speed 10, which is incredibly good. This is why I was saying that Yuna, I think, should now be built. If people haven't built her, she'll actually be pretty decent. Her S2, I think, is the one I really like. Yuna is already getting a unit buff from the developers. So her cooldown for her S2 is reduced while acquiring 2 souls instead of 1. And with this exclusive equipment, you can roll the RNG. It has a 30% chance to each to grant allies increased attack, so the greater attack buff for 2 turns. So usually it gives you a speed and attack buff, but it can potentially give any hero, so the 4 heroes or 3 heroes, depends if it's a GVG, a greater attack buff. But each hero is rolling the 30% chance separately, so maybe sometimes you might get the attack buff, greater attack buff on a healer or something like that, you don't know. But still, it's really nice to have, man. That greater attack buff can really unlock some potential for heroes that can usually not get granted a greater attack buffs. So for example, like Luna, for example, would be really cool if you have her with a greater attack buff. She's going to be insanely strong, right? So that's pretty awesome. Meteor Cannon does 30% more. Like, all of this is actually really good. I would say the S1, the S1 may not be as good, I guess, but you know, every CR is every combat readiness boost is better than nothing, I guess. But 1%, I would say the S2, S3, they really take the cake, especially with, again, Yuna's buffs. Will always inflict a critical hit if you use it, and at the full focus, she does insane amount of damage. So you can imagine her as a cleaver with this. This would be insane. That'd be insane. 30% more damage. One thing to note is Rengar's Forbidden Text. This is interesting. Some new element. So this is kind of like a Mercedes and Raz's like special imprinting material. So this will increase her imprint. And I was mentioning this before the recording on stream that really early on in the game, when the unknown slate from Arena Season 1 was in the shop, there was, I recall this Reddit post that talked about the best hero to use the slate on is to use it on Yuna, because you can only get one of her from the connection at that time, and there was no other way to imprint her because you couldn't get a dupe. So feels bad, man, for those who actually listened to that Reddit post and actually slated her, because there is no recall on it. But you can, I think from this calculation, you can get 2 for each week. So you can get triple S Yuna, if my calculation is not mistaken here. And of course you would be over if you did slate her, sadly. But hopefully you didn't. I'm really glad I didn't. I was almost convinced to do it because, like, oh, I was a new player and that Reddit post really made sense. So I almost slated her. But good thing I didn't, because I ended up not building Yuna. I ended up not using her. So that's the only reason why I didn't slate her. So feels good, man. Feels good. So this Unworldly Machinery artifact. It was already in our Heroes Journal. It was, I think, speculated that it was releasing the Korean server. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I'm assuming it was, like Chatty, Cyrilla's artifact too. This has increased 16%, up to 16% more damage to when you do AoE. So it could be good on her. I think she's on the image there because it was meant for her originally. Midnight Bloom. Now this is really cool. 4-star artifact, max enhanced. You can get up to a 16% increased critical hit chance for all allies, including the hero holding it. So this could be really good for like some support unit using it. I mean, even let's say if you use like Yuna herself as like just like a buffer. So using the S1 just for the CR push, you're using the S2 potentially with her exclusive equipment for the greater attack buff. You could have this artifact on her and you can grant more critical hit rate for all allies. Now it does say that does not stack with the same effect. So my question here is, because there's only 2 things right now that can possibly grant you critical hit chance. One is the critical hit chance buff, so Furious, C-Dom, Tywin, etc. can give you the crit chance buff, or Imprints itself. So myself owning an SSS Luna, I have a 14.4% critical hit chance for the whole party. So does this mean that it does not it does not stack with that? I'm not quite sure. So when it says does not stack with the same effects, I'm assuming like you have to take it literally. So it shouldn't work with the imprints or the critical hit chance buff from the reading of this. But otherwise, barcode set Hellcutter. Ah, interesting. Yeah, so Hellcutter is another one. Yeah, I didn't think about that. So Hellcutter could yeah, so anything that gives you critical hit chance, you might not be able to stack with it. But regardless, I think this is going to be good, especially let's say for farming. I think for some PvE scenarios, it might be good if you're really lacking some critical hit. Even PvP, it could really help, especially if you need like critical hit on like a lot of your heroes. But again, just remember that it does take one hero's artifact slot. So I'm having a hard time kind of thinking like who would you use, especially on PvP with this. maybe a healer that doesn't need a healer artifact. So like, I don't know, like Angelica or something. I don't know. I'm just thinking off the top of my head, but I think it's gonna be a good one. And because it's free, it's gonna be, you may as well get it, you know? But whether you want to like max enhance it for the 16% critical hit rate, I'm not 100% sure myself, but still very usable since I do use my critical hit chance imprinted heroes, you know, to actually boost my crit rate on other heroes. So I mean, I probably will use that artifact, to be honest. You mean they mean 2 of the same artifact? So only it doesn't stack with itself? Do you think that's what it means? But it says does not stack with the same effect. In other unstackable artifacts, it says like specifically. Hold on, wait, let me think. You might be right. So yeah, for sure you can't stack multiples of it. Yeah. Otherwise, yeah, that would be too broken. So I think given you can't stack the artifact itself, but I think yeah, I guess we'll have to see. We'll have to see. One important note is that you can get a Yuna. So it's kind of cool that Smilegate like prepped this in case someone thought that Yuna was junk. Use her for like enhancement, transmission, or promotion. You can for one time exchange for 2,500 selenite to get a Yuna. But if you do, you already have her and have not completed her connection, she won't be available to exchange. So everyone will still be able to get a Yuna at the end of this, so that's really good. Arena Season 3 is open. All these wonderful frames and all this glory, I would never get that. I'm just not good enough. All these awesome, like the glorious frame, dignified frame. Oh man, no, I'm not. I can't. But the gear, man, this is where this is good. This is good stuff. So I think that the helmet and the armor in the previous round, so for the T88 attack sets, were probably like the weakest ones. And then now looking at this, I think that they're one of the strongest. You could see that I think for the helmet, maybe the armor, depends on how you roll it, is really emphasizing like a healer or some sort of like knight or tank, you know. So that's really good. Hopefully, you know, roll some good stuff here. But I was saying that it's probably gonna be flipped because I rolled like effect resistance a ton on my attack sets. I swear, man, I could prove it. Show all 6 pieces of my T88 attack set, and all of them has effect resistance rolled on it. The weapon, the helmet, the armor, the necklace, boot, ring, everything has effect resistance on it. It's insane how the salty substat always wants your attention. It's really bad. So in this case, when effect resistance can be useful for, like, say the helmet, I'm pretty sure it'll go like into something that's not as useful. But that's why I say that the helmet is going to be the best one, because all 4 substats will be used like really easily. But the armor, the crit chance in there, it just really throws you like a kind of like throws you off. Like health, speed, effect resistance would be good on any healer, almost any knight. But the crit chance, I guess if you I don't know. Could, I guess, maybe good for like ML Cecilia, maybe. If depends how it rolls. Yeah, and everything else looks really good. The speed attack boot, effectiveness ring is kind of like a for me, but I guess if you really need that, you know, Assyria, it's good. All of them is good, but I fear the attack boot, the 6% effect resistance. I'm just like dot. I know all of it's gonna be gravitating towards that. Hero balance adjustments, I'm not going to talk about this too much. Those are the nerfed MLs. So I move on. We got so much to cover. Yeah, so this is going to be like the nerfs and buffs, this section here. I talk a bit about some highlights. Everything else pretty much is the same since my last RBTL, except one major change. Now, do recall that on all of those, like usually like those dev notes, so forecasting what may be happening in the future, they always put in asterisks and even highlight for us that the skill changes are tentative and they may change on release. So please, I always emphasize that in my videos, don't go crazy because Basar sort of got readjusted. All right. Originally, everybody was theory crafting, and, you know, because he became really good, too good, 20 soul cost, soul burn on the S3, and it ignores the effect resistance. So after doing some calculations, looking at his damage mods, looking at his base attack, I came to the conclusion that originally, if you could have ignored effect resistance, you can build him as a speedy cleaver. I mean, he does as much AoE damage as Vildred, Earth Vildred, except no the soul burn part. But if you could ignore the effect resistance on the S3 on the first turn, you can strip them, put debuff, unbuffable on them, and you can push them back by 30%, which is insane if you can include him as a damage dealer, speedy damage dealer. But they changed it now, so now the ignore resistance is now on the S2, but it costs 10. So it's still very usable. The CR pushback is still very usable, but just Basar's not OP anymore. Originally I was gonna build Basar, like consider him as one of the best like strippers to build. I was going to build him, but because of this change, I think I'm not going to, because how I wanted to use him was mainly for the pushback, the strip, the unbuffable, and the cleave on first turn. That was my plan to use it. People are saying it's a typo. Korean version is still on the S3. Really? But then this is a soul. Okay. I'll I'll take intern Kun screwed up again. I'll take that. I'll take your word for it then. I will say though, if it does go to 20 soul burn on the S3, it does make Basar a bit too OP. So I wasn't even surprised that they would do this on the S2, to be honest. Because if it does cost 10 souls to ignore the effect resistance for these debuffs, it's actually not bad. But, you know, okay, so if it's a typo then. A soul burn effect has been added. Read above the skills. Oh, I see, because it was originally there already? No? Wait. Between them, it's a summary? Oh, sand... Hold on. Has been changed and soul burn effect has been removed. I see. So that's what you mean. Oh man, this is gonna be because this is the exact wording in the previous release note. But for them to keep this here, you know what? I actually think it's still gonna be the S2. The reason is because usually so the previous round of news we got wasn't formatted in this way. So when you format it in this way, I'm assuming they pay attention more to the table and not to the description on the outside. But whatever, there's going to be speculation if I keep going down this line. Because we won't know until the patch hits. So, because they literally took the time to color code this. Whereas this is the exact same wording as the previous round. Yeah, most likely a typo. We'll find out. Yep, that's fine. Yufine's buff still looks really good. I think everyone else is pretty much the same. So we won't need to look into this. So yeah, so if for those of you who actually didn't read Yuna's buffs in the previous round, I would definitely take some time, because I do think that she's going to be one of those really good buffers and damage dealers. Even though she's a free hero, I think her usability is a lot more. Plus the fact that she only does AoE, so kind of like Dizzy, it could really help for some specific strategies. I kind of like that aspect. That's one of the reasons why I really love Dizzy, not just for the debuffs, but because she does AoE all the time. So that's really nice. And of course, Assassin Kali gets her buffs. So nice. All right, we'll move on. Content update part 3. Purgus buffed. Crozet. I think I talked about this. So I'm gonna see if there's anything. Oh, Kikirat gets a buff now. So we're saying this. I mean, this is wrong. So you know, just based off my logic there, I guess I just proved myself wrong. So in the table here, this is apparently wrong. 65% chance to dispel 1 debuff. So if it's written that way, it seems like it would be the debuff on himself. So kind of like an F Maya cleanse. But apparently originally in the game, because I really never looked at Kikirat, apparently originally in the game it dispels 1 buff. So on the enemy. So increase though, so that's pretty good. So we're gonna say that it's probably gonna still be in like it is in game. Dispels 1 buff on the enemy. Up to a 50% chance, if you Mola this, up to a 50% chance to increase your defense, because it's stackable. But only after attacking. So you actually have to spend the turns, 5 turns, and he gets up to a 50% more defense, which is pretty tanky. It's pretty good. So if you build him pretty fast, I suppose that's pretty decent. Fast and tanky, of course. 3-turn cooldown on this, and it buffs himself with a counter attack buff after using this. So 3 turns, more usable. So are people gonna build Kikirat? No clue. I don't think I will, but he seems to be sort of more usable now. The artifacts, we talked about this buff as well in the previous RBTL, so I'm not going to go over too much. I think Justice for All still really not usable. Violet Talisman, not really usable. Noble Oath, much more usable. Effect resistance, especially effect resistance, up to 100%. And I think the threshold again is under 33% HP is when you proc the highest rate. But again, keep in mind that you do need to max limit break it, and then 100% defense buff as well. Increase on the base defense. So pretty good. I would say the effect resistance is probably the most annoying part though. For a very high HP hero, that could be very scary to deal with. Alexa's basket is, again, reiterate this, going to be a very OP defensive hero thief artifact. I think it could be used well on Kayron even. But yeah, most people are thinking Arbiter Vildred with it. And then increased mage stats, which we talked about as well. Only the mages, and only, I think, 3 constellations. Part 4, Recall. So this is cool. They actually have the Moonlight hero selector here, which is kind of funny, because I was saying that they actually went into the details of do not display duplicates. Like, the pool is not that big for them to add this function, but it's so funny that Smilegate would put these like little details into the game. This is why I love them, man. This is why I love them. But I was also speculating that, you know, this might not be the one and only ML nerf going down the line. If they created such a robust feature, I mean, yes, technically you say that, well, Jagan, there's not really that much. It's just hero selector, and it's just like a list, and you have a, you know, tick box. But still, it's just like to go through the design and stuff, it just really shows you, like, if this is a one-time thing, man, they really put the effort into this, which I'm pretty impressed with. But yeah, so here are the heroes that you guys can get. I mean, if you guys are still having questions on who you should pull for, again, there are multiple videos out. Again, did a collaboration with like Warbolt, Demon, and Zodi. On this, we took our thoughts on like multiple like ML heroes that we owned and our thoughts on it. So check out that series if you guys haven't, if you guys really need that aspect. But otherwise, you know, you could join the Discord, ask that question. I'm pretty sure pretty much the same answers. Dark Corvus, Judge Kisei, Ruel, maybe even Arbiter Vildred, ML can. But anyways, it depends on what you need. That's basically what it is. And then for the Moonlight, for the 4 stars. If you, that's so weird. Why is even C Armin in there? How can you trade for her? Anyways, never mind. Yeah, if you're trading C Armin, Oxlots, BBK are probably one of the two of like probably the most important ones. But yeah, everything else, I mean, they're all good. So it depends on what you need. 2 confirmations. So one, if you click that thing to receive, you get another confirmation whether or not you want to do it. So they really want to make sure you don't make a mistake. It's pretty awesome. We know about this as well. If you have imprints, you get the unknown slates. For 4 stars, you get a thing called meteor shards. Making a stupid joke here, that looks like a little watered down unknown slate, of course, like a peanut. But you can use this for upgrading 4-star heroes. So just keep that in mind. Monthly check-in rewards, they're gonna start soon. So we talked about this again on their anniversary Q&A. Awesome stuff. Really looking forward to the checking in daily now. Whereas prior to before, nah, I'm just kidding. I was fine with it before. UI improvements. This is interesting. This is what I was saying, that we might have to get our what's it called, muscle memory readjusted. So you select the supporter on the sides. From the looks of this, it looks like some kind of slidable widget. So if you click select supporter, the difficulty section, as you see on the second page here, it slides to the left. That's what I'm assuming what's gonna happen, because all the interface on the right side is the same. So it seems like it's just like an expansion widget kind of thing. This is kind of cool. Yeah, you can again swap in your team and your heroes, but you get the full-fledged view right now. My question is, do you get to access your hero? So usually when you're setting up your teams or whatnot, when you're on this page, if you, let's say you click on Vildred on the right there, you can go right into his hero view. That was one of my kind of little gripes, even though it didn't kill me. Little gripes on the original way of entering into the battle. You wouldn't be able to access the hero himself. Sometimes I do want to do that. It's just better like user flow. So I think based on the changes, based on the graphics here, because if it takes you to this kind of team select screen, I think it should be, it's a full screen takeover. So it's no longer a little pop-up on top of your like map or whatever. So I think so, but I'm not quite sure actually. Oh, never mind, let's continue. An important piece is the equipment stat improvement. So everybody was kind of saying that yes, it would affect the left side gear. I was kind of half, even though I really had no justification to doubting the left side gear being increased. So now all bruisers, all tanks and healers will be harder to kill. Since the attack increase is much lower than the defense and the health increase, cleavers, even though C Armin is nerfed, cleavers may potentially see some harder difficulty going down the line. Especially ML Cecilia's barrier is still based on the health. So the health being on the flat stat being 2.25, that will increase a bit. I mean, the percentage is not that great, but every bit helps. But of course, it's all of your heroes in defense as well increase. So depending on your defense team, cleaving may be a bit harder. And that's funny too, because Judge Kisei is released on the Mystics like right after this the patch. So it's going to be quite interesting. One thing I wanted to know out of all these other adjustments, I'm going to skip through it, was this. Issue with the damage increase from skill enhance of Seaside Bologna skill You're Not Cute wasn't as high as the number listed when the skill I'm with my friends has been fixed. So this is the S2 proc. I was saying that the defensive teams that I'm facing with SS Bologna now are already doing insane damage. I'm already super scared of them. But to say that this wasn't actually, like, the damage wasn't actually increased, it kind of scares me where the potential is. I did put +2 out of 3 on my S2, and I was saying this. Actually, I do remember. I was saying this. That the people, I was telling the people like on my stream, and even I think even on YouTube, I said I regret enhancing an S2, man. I used their S2, and like I molded it, and I didn't feel any improvement at all. This is probably the reason. So I can't wait to see what kind of damage I'll be doing. Of course, I mean, it's 10%, 20. I think it's 20%. 20%, I would think by +2. So it's gonna be interesting. Yeah, okay, that's pretty much all I wanted to cover there. Free equip event, especially with the nerfs here, just for till the weekend. The end of the weekend, so keep that in mind. Really use this time to build your heroes, readjust heroes, and then we're gonna talk about Yufine's drop rate up. Oh man, I can't believe it. When this was probably the most exciting thing for me, after I pulled my free 5-star selector that we got in the anniversary check-in, I was like, oh man, I wish it was Yufine, and then I got a dupe cigarette, which is okay, but still, I really wanted Yufine, and I can't believe it, man. She was here. After yesterday on Discord, I was saying that, oh man, I hope Yufine gets her banner so I could pity summon for her. I'm going for her all out. So as you guys saw, that Yufine did get a buff, so she's going to become really good. I think she's going to be pretty good even on defense. I know a couple, well, one guildmate in particular, but I won't say who. So if you guys are attacking our guild and you face his defense, you're going to be in for a surprise. But there is one guild member that has a really good defensive Yufine. Very impressed with it myself, and I really think that she can be used on a really good defense if you have like really good supporting heroes with it. But on an offensive team, I think she's gonna be like a no-brainer as an Earth Nuker. Now, Lilibet is getting a buff here, but I think that Yufine is a much stronger nuker given her kit. I'm not gonna go into too much detail here, but this list does reflect her actual changes in terms of the buffs. So this is actually reflecting all the buff changes right now. The couple highlights is probably the S2 and the S3. S3, after your awakening, dispels all buffs first and then stunning for 1 turn. So if you actually accidentally fail to kill, it already does a lot of damage, but if you fail to kill on it, at least they might be stunned. So that's really good. Increased damage, of course, this was the original part of her kit. Increased damage dealt by 50% more if they're buffed. So you should imagine like someone with immunity on now, even if they're really, really tanky and they can survive your like S3, you could potentially dispel the buffs if you affect your effectiveness goes through, and stun them, and you already get the increased like attack power. So that's really cool. The S2 attacks Dragon Howl, dispelling 1 buff from all enemies, which is awesome, and then 75% chance to silence for 1 turn. So very good. And I remember actually in the update that this has an increased power, if I'm not mistaken. I think it does, or am I getting that mixed up with Lilibet? But then the S1 is also really good too, up to a 50% chance to defense break for 2 turns. That's just on S1. So her kit is very robust. She's very strong. And even after the buffs now, she's going to be even more usable. So I would say that if you have the ability to get her, I would try to get her for sure. I would try to get her. What if they are tanky and high resist? Yeah, that's the only thing. But still, no other nuker is going to do more damage than her, really, if they are really tanky with high resist, if you really think about it. So because she already does 50% more damage if they're buffed. I'm not quite sure how that scales with crit damage, but obviously, yes, highest attack possible, highest crit damage possible, and you're gonna see some awesome stuff. You could usually one-shot. It can usually one-shot like Crows easily. So if they're buffed, especially. Yeah. So anyways, that's the end of this one. Very, very long one. So I will pull for Yufine. I will. That's already guaranteed. I'm gonna get her regardless. So I'm gonna end this here. Yeah, right? Yeah, the multiplier is really high. Yeah, so the S3 is a 2.2. Yeah. Without the 50%. She's incredibly strong. I'm going to end this here. If you guys have Discord, check out the Discord server. Follow me on Twitter and subscribe to YouTube if you haven't. As always, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys on the next Reading Between the Lines.